So at the end of a first week, we need to pick a floor plan to use. So I'm going to show you how I went about that. I chose to pick a floor plan from this website that I posted on Moodle. And so I went through, and you can, at the home page, you can start and you can search based on the minimum and maximum square feet. So I went through that and just picked one that I thought would be fun to do. Of course, you can pick whatever you think is easiest for your skill level and what you think you can actually get done within the class time. So I created this PDF with the images and the floor plan so that I have a reference for when I'm creating my floor plan. And I'll show you how to put this together like I did. So when I went to the site, I actually went to the web browser, and you can just right click and copy the images for the floor plan. So I'll just do that now. Copy image and open up your Bluebeam PDF software. Go to new PDF. At the top under file. In the drop down, you want to pick architectural D or whatever size you want to use. So I'm using this architectural D. If you want to use a well, we'll choose architectural D, and I'll show you how I replaced it with a title block that I created. So now it's loading the new PDF. And we'll want landscape. And you can choose different backgrounds here, and I think you have to load in which ones you want to use if you want additional ones. So we have landscape, okay, it'll create as a blank PDF. That's 24 by 36, which you should be able to see at the bottom of your screen. When you're in the Bluebeam PDF, they have different profiles. I have a custom profile that I've done. Let's see, it's not showing up on the sheet, so let's bring it over here. So you can have a construction profile, advanced, which is, you get to choose the different toolbars and different items you have. Field issues, quantity takeoff. So if you were using this for getting square footages for a project, so that you could do find out how much material you needed. So you might want to play around with this, see what kind of settings there are, and I'll do a different video showing how to set that up as well. But just for now, we'll create our blank PDF. I created a title block from Revit that I want to use for just the background, which is what I did on this one that I did over here. So you can actually either right click here and hit replace page, or I believe it's over here in the drop down document, and then all the replace page, crop page, extract pages over here too. But I open the thumbnails, right click and replace page. You browse out to wherever your title block or whatever background you want to use that's the same size, and I'll replace with this 24 by 36 grid paper with the title block that I made. So yeah, open. It's going to ask you which pages, and it's also going to ask to replace page content only. And so what that'll do is, if I had already made my little kind of example and I wanted to change this to a background that I made, then it will only replace the page content of the background, and it'll leave all the markups and all the pictures that I've pasted in here. If you have this unchecked, it will actually replace the entire PDF with whatever you're replacing it with. So if you already have content in your PDF, you'll want to replace page content only, which is basically replacing the background PDF image and not what you've done on top of it. So then you have your title block in here. I can actually probably show you that over here as well. I'd undo a couple times. I had a blank PDF here. I went to replace page, chose the grid, replace content only, and it will actually put in the PDF, but it'll leave your pictures and the things you pasted in here. So I copied that image from the web browser. Just right click on the image, copy image, and then you can just paste it in here. I put it over here on the side because it's kind of our reference video. So Bluebeam has some nice features. It will actually snap to elements that are in the PDF. So I made it a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch grid title block, and so I believe it is default, but I'll look at that when I try to set up a new profile. But there is a setting for snapping to the elements that are in the PDF. So this will snap to different line work that is in the PDF. Now, if it's a PDF created by a vector program like AutoCAD or Revit, it will snap. But if it's like a scanned image, it won't snap to the grid lines or any content in the PDF. So we'll just size that up so that I can paste these other ones, and then I might just resize them. Basically, we're creating this so that we have a reference to look back to. On the site, it is a little bit hard to see, and you don't want to have to. I can't really zoom in unless I zoom in, the web page, which is usually pretty obnoxious and not very helpful. So I copied the overall 3D rendering. I also have a additional images button, which has a couple other images that they don't show on the site, but here they have the front elevation image, which looks like it's a better quality, so I'm going to actually try to paste that in instead and see if it is better quality. It looks to be about the same. It's really just for our reference as we're doing our model. So go back to our page, and then they have the floor plans down here. Now the floor plans are hard to read, but it kind of doesn't matter, because as long as we can get this overall dimensions and the rim dimensions, we're just going to ballpark it, right? It doesn't have to be exact dimensions. It's just kind of a place to start from. So as you can see, it looks like this room is 18 by 12, 12 by 12, 12 foot 2 by 12 foot 2. So we can get our dimensions and try to lay out this plan. If it's not perfect, it doesn't matter for this exercise, because we're really just using this so that we have something to model. And I want you guys to be able to choose a floor plan that you think you can have success modeling. So I chose one that actually is 2-story. It's considered 1 story. It just has a main level and an upper level, which is just like a game room area, which I thought would be fun. But for the purposes of this class, we can probably just stick to a single story house. And you can use whatever floor plan you want. I think I put that in the kind of the outline, the class outline, is if you want to use a floor plan that's your childhood home or your current house or whatever, or a friend's house that you really liked. As long as you have some realistic room dimensions, and you can kind of get an idea of that. Smallest bedroom is probably 10 by 10, but it's good to have a floor plan to just reference on, and we can manipulate these as we want. So the next thing I do once I've got these pictures in, I always like to work in a scale. So over on the bar here, there is a measurements tab. This will allow us to actually set a scale. In Bluebeam, you can actually select a PDF scale so that you can actually take accurate dimensions. It's not like a CAD program, but it actually is pretty close. So over here on this page scale, we're going to do a preset scale. I'm going to choose 1/8 inch scale. I think that, let's see what I did on my original one. I did 1/8 inch, yeah. So you see a 1/4 inch scale would be much bigger. And so if you wanted to make it bigger, or somewhere in between, you know, you could do the 3/16 scale. The quality of these pictures isn't great, so having them bigger might not necessarily be benefit. So we'll go back over here. I set it to 1/8 inch scale, and I'm going to set the precision to 32nd, and actually we'll set it to 16th because 32nd in construction nobody works to that kind of tolerances except for maybe some trades when you're doing shop drawings, you know, the steel shop drawings, they might use that scale, but typically contractors are going to want to work with like a 1/4 inch or 16th at the max, just because when you're throwing a tape out there, there's just you need to have some tolerance built in, and having really precise 30 seconds and dimensions just aren't really practical for the guys in the field. So we got our page scale set up, and then I collected this length. There's lots of different shortcuts that you can use. So I believe it is Shift L to get into length. Yes. So it'd be good to know all the shortcut keys for all the different tools, which they often are shown here. When you pull down the tools menu, you can see all the different shortcuts. And so measure length is Shift Alt L. So I think Shift L is actually just a blank dimension, so that you could force and just, if you're doing a markup of drawing, you could say, I want this to be 90 feet. So Shift Alt L will bring up your measure tool, or you can just pick it here or pick it up here in the tools. So when I am scaling a drawing, so the nice thing about it is now that it has a scale factor set, you can draw your dimension, and you can actually tell it to be 84 feet, and it will change to that length. And so because this is a PDF software, it's not super precise, so you can scale this image in the properties. This little gear will give you the properties of this image and give you the size, but it's pretty difficult to have it to scale it by its width and numbers. So it's best just to pick a corner and drag it till it's close, because we don't really need it to be super accurate. We're just using this as kind of like a reference. So we can take some base dimensions and then kind of round up. So we'll kind of drag and try to get it close. You can use the arrow keys to bump over an image until you get it pretty close. So we're going to call that, and adjust it a little bit more here. Because what I want to be able to do is to be able to take dimensions over here and see if they're close. So I scaled this image to be 84 feet across this way, the width. And now I've got this dimension, so if I pull this dimension, it's pretty close. It's reading 55 and 5 3/4. We can actually manually change it to 55.6, and you can see it's still pretty close. So now we've actually scaled this drawing. So now if you need to to take other dimensions. So this is the main building, and so it gives you room dimensions, but it would be really hard to try to figure out how this is going to be set up. You're going to be guessing a lot, which is okay, but I often like to be able to have some solid dimensions to work from. Another thing too, once you get this set, so in Bluebeam, if you hold Shift and click, you can actually get a window to drag. So I'm going to just drag this to the corner so I have room to set the other dimensions. And then I'm going to actually, you can lock any kind of markup or picture that you paste in so that you can't move it anymore. So I'm going to take this, you can right click and then hit lock, or you can hit Control Shift L, will also lock anything that you have selected. These little 3 lines are the markup lines, so now anything that I've pasted in here will show up over here, and then you can also lock and modify them somewhat in here. Up at the top you can filter your markups, and then if you can sort them by the subject or the label. We can also click this markup list, and we can actually have, there's quite a few different options for having data related to these markups. So I don't care about the author, so I'm going to turn that off. Columns, check mark, we don't need that for now. That's just a way to be able to filter and check. So if an engineer or an architect or gives you markups, you can actually, as you're going through the markups, you can check mark them, and then it'll filter out the markups. But we can go over that later. This is a page label, we don't need that column. And this is just basically for our use, so we can see what markups are locked, what the comments are, and then what type of markup. And we can sort them by locked, unlocked comments. So that is another way to kind of modify your markups. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this other plan, this kind of upper floor plan, this game room, that they kind of made their attic space into this kind of second level. So as you can see, the outline is the building below. Alright, so this is the garage, the little bump out, the deck. So we know that from this point to this point is 84 feet, and so we can then scale our model then again on this one. So we'll do the Shift Alt L. Sometimes if you don't click, if you lift up too soon, it will not go all the way where you want it. So 84 feet. Control Z to undo, because it seemed like I didn't put in the right number. And we'll do the same process with this one. I'll grab it and try to scale it close. And it looks close enough for government work, as they say, so we'll pull this out. And then we'll line it up, because it should be pretty close to what they have here. So yeah, it looks like it's pretty close. So we're going to call that good. We'll hold Shift down, highlight over all of this, right click, and lock. Or you can Control Shift L, will toggle through locked and unlocked. And as you see, when they're locked, you can no longer adjust any of their appearances over here. So now we have a reference to start drawing our layout, our floor plan in Revit. So I'll lock this one as well. And for instance, when I did this before, as you can see on my original example, I wanted to get kind of an idea of where the house lived in relation to the balcony, this kind of covered porch. And so I assumed it's about 8 feet from all of the adjacent walls. So again, since we set the scale over here on our measure tab, we can take another measurement from any point on the building, and we can get a relatively close idea of where the elements in the building live. So this is about 8 foot. So that's what, when I go in to start modeling, I'm going to start modeling the building 8 feet from this overall 55'6", 84 foot square. So that is how I am going to start modeling. Is I'll take some dimensions, get an idea of what the actual parameters are, and go from there. So in the next video, I think I'll post a video on just how to get your Bluebeam set up to the way you like it, because you can change the different profiles so that you can get different tools, and it'll show, things will show up differently depending on the profile. So I have one that I like, that I've used because I've just gotten used to it. But anyway, so that's it for this video. I'm actually going to save over my other one, because or maybe I won't. I've already got this all together, so that doesn't matter. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Thanks.